Hello guys, it's me Simo Orahara, and first I'm sorry for the quality of my voice because I have a cold and tonsillitis. I wanted to take a break but I can't. Anyway, in this video I will talk about Osan Zangetsu, in particular away from his role as the main force of Ichigo, but rather by talking about the narrative dimension that this character constitutes in Bleach in general, especially after Kobo revealed his truth, whether in the manga or through the question he answered related to the scene of chapter 63. Personally, I find the building of this character it is one of the most amazing things Kobo had done in the story, if not the best, especially how Kobo manages to portray to us the horror, the strength, the brutality, and all the qualities that make you see Yhwach as a symbol of strength and destruction in the story. Meanwhile, and throughout the story and from its very beginning, Kobo has been able to give us the opposite of Yhwach, which took the form of him, Osan Zangetsu, who has always been considered like Ichigo's wise master, the man who comes to Ichigo's help whenever he faces death. And the fact that Osan Zangetsu is a manifestation of the strength of Yhwach and took his appearance 1,000 years ago, this makes Osan one of the characters who know a lot about things we desperately need to know. That's why I said in a previous video, Kobo supposed to take advantage of the role of Osan in revealing the complete past of Yhwach, and I will talk about this point shortly. But first, we must agree on a preliminary point, because I see some people are still floundering about it. It is that Osan Zangetsu is the Quincy power of Ichigo, which was manifested in the form of the founder of the Quincy, Yhwach. But this doesn't mean that this person is really Yhwach himself. But it can be said that he has consciousness completely independent of Yhwach, so that Osan Zangetsu can make special decisions according to his own vision. But at the same time, Osan can be considered the link that connects Ichigo to Yhwach, because Osan represents the Quincy power of Ichigo. Perhaps the most prominent example that explains this point is what happened in chapters 512 and 513. When the first invasion ended with the death of Yamamoto and the destruction of the Serichi, Ichigo came to Serichi and after looking at Byakuya, immediately turned towards Yhwach. Ichigo later commented on what he did in that chapter by saying that he subconsciously headed towards Yhwach without the need for anyone to tell him where Yhwach is, automatically found himself in front of Yhwach, as if something moved Ichigo towards Yhwach in order to meet him. And this may show the extent to which Ichigo is connected to Yhwach through Osan Zangetsu. The same scene were repeated in the incident where Ichigo caught Ryo. Ichigo again and subconsciously caught Ryo using the sword of Yhwach. And as I said before, the sword of Yhwach has a copy and it is the real sword of Ichigo Zangetsu. Because the Osan took the form of Yhwach, he took his name and took some of his powers, like he can manipulate the Rishi like we saw in this scene, or use shadows to hide or blood for treatment, and so it can be the same for the sword. The Osan Zangetsu also has a sword like the one Yhwach has, and it's possible that he even took some of Yhwach's memories and knowledge, and this is the most important point about Osan Zangetsu. Osan Zangetsu has an extraordinary knowledge of a few things that aren't simple. Some may not know this, but Osan Zangetsu, he is the first character that gave us the definition of Asauchi, and the official definition came with Nimaya, the creator of the Zanpakuto. But when the Osan brought Ichigo to his inner world, he gave him an Asauchi and told him that the Asauchi is a nameless Zanpakuto given to the normal soldiers of Shinigami. So here we must ask an important question. How does Osan Zangetsu know such information? We know that Osan Zangetsu is just a manifestation of Ichigo's Quincy power inside his inner world. How did he come to know such information that related to the Gotei 13? So that's why I assume Osan Zangetsu, besides he took the shape of Yhwach, he probably took some of his memories and knowledge too, like some information from the past 1000 years before the first war of the Quincy against the Shinigami. And through this information, Osan Zangetsu knew a lot about how the Shinigami fight and how they use their abilities like Zanpakuto, Shikai and Bankai. And that's why Osan Zangetsu had all that knowledge that made him able to train Ichigo to learn Shikai and Bankai. And who knows, Osan Zangetsu also knew the goal of Yhwach and that the question of his coming is just a matter of time. Because in this scene, Osan used the first point of view, I, like if he was speaking as Yhwach. And I imagine this scene like if Osan was speaking and at the same time he was watching the memories of Yhwach. And that's why he was trying to stop Ichigo from taking the path of Shinigami, because he knew that if Ichigo took that path, he will eventually face Yhwach. And that's what happened. If you still remember, when Ichigo caught Ryo, Yhwach said that all the battles of Ichigo in his path was for that moment, to catch Ryo. And I'm not gonna be surprised if Osan knew all of this, and based on that he wanted to protect Ichigo from Yhwach. And this leads us to talk about the philosophy of Osan Zangetsu, which revolves around one idea. What you want to protect is not what I want to protect. Because Ichigo wanted to become a Shinigami in order to protect his family and his friends, and the matter turned into a desire to protect the Soul Society, etc. And this was contrary to the desire of Osan Zangetsu. Osan Zangetsu only cared to protect Ichigo and save his life. Osan doesn't care about the death of millions of people or anyone else as long as Ichigo remains safe. And the conversation of Osan in the Bankai mode with Ichigo on this point clearly clarifies how Osan was thinking. And I can even say that Yhwach had the same thinking but in a different way. Yhwach also did not show any interest in protecting anyone, whether his followers or even those close to him. All he wanted to protect was his inner desire to achieve his goal, which is a world without death. On the other hand, guys, I didn't like how Kobo ended the role of Osan as soon as Ichigo learned the truth of his power. As a character like Osan and has extensive knowledge, Ichigo should have returned to him even after discovering his powers, at least to ask him some questions related to Yhwach. I mean, the simplest questions that can be asked to Osan Zangetsu are, as long as you say that you are Yhwach and you are not Yhwach at the same time, do you have his memory? Do you know anything about him? And I don't think Osan will let Ichigo without an answer. At least he will have some information about Yhwach, which may benefit the story through a flashback about who Yhwach is, or through certain information about Yhwach that may be useful in defeating him in the future. The important thing is that the presence of Osan in that period of the story was more necessary than ever, because the topic of the final arc was centered around the Quincy. Osan Zangetsu is a Quincy power who could have helped Ichigo to develop his powers or help him to take down Yhwach. And I previously spoke in this video about the fact that the real Zanpakuto, Zangetsu and Yhwach's sword are alike. And when I published that video, some fans came up with another important note that supports this theory. Like when Ichigo wanted to learn Bankai, Osan told the latter that there is only one sword that can defeat him. And with this given, it may be that also Osan meant the same thing with the real Yhwach. The only weapon that can defeat him is the real Zangetsu. That's why I said I wished if Kobo had made better use of Osan to clarify a lot about Yhwach. The other thing that I liked about the Osan's character is how he made Ichigo so attached to him. Yes, it is true that the reasons for Ichigo's attachment to Osan Zangetsu are due to the fact that Ichigo has always considered Osan to be his Zanpakuto, his Shinigami powers, and that the Hollow is just an intrusive beast that doesn't belong to him. But the fact that Osan Zangetsu is a character with the appearance of an old man contributed to making Ichigo's relationship with Osan as if it were a relationship of master and student, or it could be said a relationship between a father and son. Perhaps Yhwach calling Ichigo my son born in the darkness is one of its connotations is the relationship that linked Osan to Ichigo and how he was taking care of him in a world formed of Shinigami's power. And in the chapter in which it was revealed the reality of Osan, the expressions that Kobo drew on Ichigo's face were very expressive, and there are few times where Ichigo showed those features, so that I can say that there are two incidents in which Ichigo showed these features. The first was when he was betrayed by Ginjo and received that stab by Rokia and saw his father. Ichigo formed features as if he was shocked that the closest person to him, his father Isshin, has been manipulated and now is on the other side. Those feelings that Ichigo was feeling are almost similar to what Ichigo felt when he stood in front of Osan Zangetsu. Look at Ichigo's expressions and how he pronounces why Zangetsu. Kobo in that chapter revealed one of the biggest plot twists of the story, how Osan in all ways was trying to protect Ichigo by keeping his identity secret, and how he finally accepted Ichigo's wild desire to become a Shinigami. So guys, tell me your opinion about Osan Zangetsu, and see you guys in my next video.